Taylor Swift on New Heights, The New Heist, gave so much life to so many theories that so many theory crafters have been working on for so many years. There are absolutely, without a doubt, hundreds, if not thousands, of Easter eggs strewn throughout the podcast, and we're going to be studying this probably for the next decades, if not centuries to come. If you have not realized it yet, she has really done something that a lot of people thought wasn't popular anymore. In the kind of era where a lot of people are being drawn to more niche entertainment, and there's not like one specific monocultural moment, we really haven't had much that was like that since Game of Thrones, with a lot of people watching and responding and bonding over that and having discussions about culture over that. And already there are dozens of Taylor Swift theory crafters who are going back and taking another look at all of her outfits, all her songs, all of her music videos, all of the promotional materials, all of her social media posts, all of the people around her and what they've been wearing, because it is clear that this is as big as many of us have been predicting for a long time, because many of our theories got confirmation about this. Taylor is truly an artist who understands every side of the business, and this podcast was a masterful way of showing how well she does at it. And that's one of the big reasons why she is so successful, and more than that, she has a ton of people that are around her, and she is a fantastic leader. She is good at getting people together to collaborate on things that people won't even appreciate or notice for years to come. Taylor grew up with the attention economy, and because of that, she has like this almost inborn understanding of how it works. She really got her start with platforms like MySpace, and then she has leveraged Tumblr and every single other platform that has come out in order to help benefit her career. A lot of people forget Taylor Swift TM, the brand, is more than just Taylor. It is her father, who is a financial guy. It is her mother, who is a marketing genius. You can tell that she has taught what she knows to the entire family as well. And you have her brother, who has stepped in a number of different roles over the years in order to help out the company from a more quiet perspective. And a lot of people get too focused on the wrong type of currency with regards to Taylor. Like, sure, she can make a lot of money off of people. If you really want to make the art that you want to make and have it be exactly as you want it, you have to make the money making people money, or else they're not going to let you have enormous, massive 3.5-hour long concerts. You have to have a proven return on investment in order to do that. But as much as Taylor understands that, she understands the attention economy even more, and your attention, like she was saying in the podcast, is even more valuable than the money. Like, just think about the past couple of days, how many places Taylor has lived rent-free in people's minds. Everybody was commenting on how different this rollout was from other rollouts, and it's really just showing how kind of like she doesn't have to go through the traditional mainstream way of marketing an album. Like, she has all of these other skills available to her that she's using, and just in such an incredible way. And she's not the only one either. There are tons of artists around her that have similar skill sets, especially the artists that she really treats as her like Tay daughters, especially I would say Gracie and Haley and Phoebe and Sabrina more so than a lot, but there's tons of people that are surrounding Taylor that clearly there is a shared community that they're working together with their creative goals. We are living through a cultural phenomenon of all of these artists making incredible art that is going to be discussed for decades, if not centuries to come. Like, we already have so much like just content on YouTube about bands that are like 20, 30, 40 years old. As those bands become more historic, as there are more people that haven't lived through the glory day of those bands and those artists, there are going to be so many people who are looking to those people who are alive right now, us as contemporaries, to give perspective on what that art was and how that art was perceived and how it was interpreted, and never more. And one of the things that Taylor leverages incredibly well is her fandom. She really knows how to get her fandom talking with the minimum amount of effort coming from herself, though there's a lot more effort going on than she often makes it look like. She spent a lot of work making it look like she doesn't spend much time working. Now let's go into New Heights, shall we? This was a production that was produced and directed by Taylor Swift that is exceptionally masterfully done and is a culmination of so many skill sets that Taylor possesses. Taylor loves flexing her planning skills. That's the reason she mentioned her NYU commencement speech here, because that in and of itself was a masterclass of Easter eggs and self-referential illusions. She can perform, she puts on a show, she writes, she edits, she organizes, she improvises, she gets the money done, she directs. There are so many things that she does and is doing in this podcast that is a flex to people who are, especially people who are in the business or people who have a lot of experience with analyzing such a things, with just how good she is at leveraging all of that. And like I said, a tremendous aspect of it is how she leverages her fandom. She leads her fandom in such an intriguing way. And the thing that impresses me the most about this is that we know it had to have been done in a relatively short time frame, because Travis had Prince hair for all of those months, and he has buzz cut in this. So clearly this was done in the past couple, I'm not sure exactly when the date. If I get stuck in dates, we're only going to discuss a couple of things. So I apologize if I don't have the details readily available. I do think a big part of what Taylor is trying to do is trying to teach people media literacy. I think Taylor, more than anybody else, is aware of the fact that a lot of her fans do not have nearly enough media. Nobody. Realistically, there are very few people nowadays that have nearly enough media literacy. And a lot of times we blame each other. We say, oh, you're not smart, you don't do this thing, all that jazz. But we really have to look at the education system. I think growing up and going to school in the 80s and going to a little bit of Catholic school that had kind of a more like critical thinking based curriculum, it is really easy for me to look at the kids, even just a couple of years behind me, who were being impacted by things like No Child Left Behind, which like ostensibly it sounds good on paper, but it very often leads to children being promoted through the grades without having the skills necessary. Like, literacy levels are on the decline, and we very often blame the people that are involved, but that's not the case. And now here's the thing about Taylor and the people that she works alongside. All of these artists know that their fans are ravenous. They want to know, what books is she referencing? What movies is she referencing? What things is she referencing? And because of that, it opens up so many people to experiencing the type of things they should have had in school. You don't always need academia as an environment to learn these things. And as academia is increasingly suffering, we really need to look at learning other ways, community learning especially. I believe she's inspiring people, teaching people to notice when things are inconsistent, teaching people to notice when things have been edited, when things are made up, when things are not real. If she gets up on a podium and she says, I made a media literacy class that everyone should take, like, sure, there are going to be a couple people that take that. But if she bakes the lessons into the media that she's creating, she can do it in a way that A, we're exposed to us when we're like emotional, when we're primed to be more receptive to the knowledge, but also at the same time, we're enjoying it. So we actually want to do it. Like, so many of us have had so much fun the past couple of days. There were so many things in the background during this podcast that were designed to try and provoke people to research those things, to try and figure out how they might be connected to the art that Taylor is created. Because so many people make incredibly surface level analysis of her art. And if you're just here to say something to the extent of, oh, pop music's not that important, just a stupid pop song, I just want to refer you back to the video that I made about how pop music is art. It is a very powerful form of art, and that's why they want you to believe that it has no value, it has no importance, to devalue it. So these people cannot get us to listen to their stories. We are living through incredible cultural events, and one of those big events is living contemporaneously with somebody who is likely going to be regarded on the same level as Shakespeare, especially in 400 years. Taylor is as big as she is because she is exceptionally good at doing so many things well, while simultaneously downplaying how well she does them, because a lot of people are threatened by powerful, high-achieving women. Now let's start about the introduction to the podcast. The introduction established a lot of things very quickly. It makes it clear that it's pre-recorded by making the cuts very obvious, and you have scenes when Taylor is next to Travis and scenes when Taylor is not next to Travis. So you can tell the edit isn't just to zoom in, it is to change to a different time or a different place. So it is obvious that these aren't just zoom-ins, that these are actually taking place at a different time. Then you have Jason Kelce do an incredible introduction of Taylor, and one of the things that happens in the introduction is they basically say that she can do whatever she wants. Jason lists a number of her achievements: singer, songwriter, producer, director. It's more than just introducing her and getting his audience to like them more, because sports people like achievements and awards and things of that nature. It is also telling the people that are analyzing this critically a dramatis personae of sorts, the roles that Taylor is playing in this production, because it is a production. And if this is a production, then they are performers, even if the performance is one that is based off of what people believe their public persona is. And this whole thing, but especially the first 15 minutes, is a masterclass in controlling how other people perceive you. By releasing to a trusted person's podcast, Taylor has complete creative control over not just how her message was sent, but also how it was received. By having two well-respected men that are accomplished and loved by their audience hype her up in this way, it also gives initial validation to Taylor. The audience likes her because Travis and Jason obviously do. The podcast begins with Jason going over many of her achievements. Their audience is watching too. It's not just all Swift 50s. Sports fans are an audience that respects awards, achievement, and athleticism. They have been primed to value those things. The audience sees men they trust respect Taylor, and they start to respect her too. But it's a tenuous respect at first, and Taylor has to play things very carefully. High-achieving men, even feminists, are very often threatened by high-achieving women. They recognize she's doing the same steps, backwards and heels, just like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. So Taylor immediately puts herself in the kitchen in this story. She's pulling a Paris Hilton and being hot, domestic, and ditzy, and into her man's most masculine traits. She tells an anecdote of being in the kitchen baking and cheering on his podcast from outside. They like her. They want her now. They respect Travis for landing her. And then she shifts. One moment she's ditzy, the next she's speaking about an area of her expertise. She is talking about pulling off an incredibly successful financial endeavor in both her tour and her masters. These men respect her now. Then she explains how awful the current industry is to the audience. That is the most important thing to her in this moment, because this is the time when people are paying the most attention. People are really starting to like and respect her, even the people that didn't know her as well. And then she goes into something that is clearly a case that is very dear and near to her heart. She cares about other artists not having to go through the struggles that she did. She believes, as many of us believe, that artists deserve to have more control and more financial reward and more control over their legacy and how they're perceived and how their money gets passed on over the years and things of that nature than the businessmen who just kind of threw money at them and told them to make an album and then put them under a bunch of restrictions to try and make it the best, financial thing possible, regardless of what the artist might want. Like, there are so many terrible things that go on behind the scenes of the industry, and the media is also often very complicit in downplaying that, because a lot of the same companies own the same companies. Anytime an artist complains, it's just, oh, spoiled little rich girl, especially Taylor. Taylor very often has to infer that her work is about other people when it's actually about herself, because when she actually explicitly says her work is about herself, people do not care and really are cruel and dismissive in a way that clearly is very hurtful to her. While she makes the case that all artists deserve their rights management, Jason and Travis keep supporting what she's saying. They are audience inserts, asking Taylor the questions the audience wants to know, the things we might not understand as lay people. And that's just like the first little bit of it. She does so many other things throughout this. And like I said, there are so many different Easter eggs. There's so many different self-referential allusions going on. Now, I said at the top that the introduction was a dramatis personae of sorts, basically an introduction of the characters, and I believe I see it thusly. So Singer is Showgirl Taylor, the persona that she has to put on as basically every celebrity that has ever achieved any type of like A or B level success. Almost all of them, if not all of them, but definitely almost all of the women have been heavily managing a public persona while also trying to conceal a private person inside, because that is realistically the only way that A, you cannot piss people off with your little rough points, that you can win over the largest amount of people to make the largest amount of money for the rich guys in control, but also simultaneously you can protect the people and the things and the relationships that you care about the most from the scrutiny of the media, which is very often, and this is a subject that we've discussed a number of times on this channel, that the media is very often harassing not just famous people, but anybody whose path tends to cross them. You could be somebody who just walks past Prince Harry at the market and you give him a look, and then the media looks into you because, oh, they can spin a story because you gave him an evil look or something like that. You could become unwittingly the part of a media story at any point in time that you cross paths with a celebrity, and like that has ruined a number of people's lives over the years as well. And one of the big things about why I believe that she released it to the podcast is, like I said before, very often when she is trying to market her work, no one takes it very seriously. A lot of the interviews that she does are very softball questions. They are very often about things that are, just gossip, not the heart of the art that she's trying to create. And it sucks that like one of the biggest bait and switches, I am working on a video right now about how Taylor is an unreliable narrator, but one of the biggest bait and switches that she often does is pretend that things are about other people when they're actually about herself in order to actually get it perceived in a better way. It stinks that she has to go through these measures. It stinks that she can't say, I am doing performance art, because people are just going to make fun of her. It sucks that she can't say, I am making parables or I am a storyteller like she was doing around folklore without having people dismiss her as just a sad little rich girl. This podcast let her speak the message about her art and also the things that were important to her in a way that could be transmitted exactly as she wanted it, but also, like I said a little bit ago, could be received, because we are very much monkey see, monkey do people. Like, one of the reasons we like reaction channels on YouTube is because sometimes we see content and we're not really sure how we feel about it. Like it's more common that we realize for us to rely on other people's opinions to tell us why we feel the way we do about the way we do. And very often we use pop stars and celebrities as kind of like avatars for the discussions that we can't have about ourselves because we have too much shame and too much negative emotion tied up on it. Like, so many LGBTQ people have been uncertain how their parents were going to respond, so they would say, oh, celebrity XYZ is gay, and see how mom responds. And if mom freaks out about celebrity being gay, then we don't tell mom, right? I really felt that Jason asked Taylor a lot of really good questions. He was really good at making sure that when Travis spoke over her, that he got to the point that it was possible for Taylor to say everything that she wanted to say. And it was interesting that, like, Travis would support a lot of the points that she was making, especially her best points, by saying that she's so smart, and she would immediately defer with a, oh, you know, you're my boyfriend, you have to say that. Because the thing is, if Travis does compliment her, there's so much room for everybody to be like, well, he just thinks that because he's, you know, her boyfriend. When she says that herself, she indicates that she's self-aware of it and therefore not threatened by it, and therefore we perceive it as being more true than we would have if she hadn't have said that. And I want to jump forward a little bit and talk about the glitch. If you watched this on YouTube within the first little bit after it was released, you would have seen a file that was an hour and 44 minutes long. At the end of that hour and 44 minute long clip, Taylor mouths something that lip readers had said is like, cut it now or just now. I definitely think it looks like now, and then that's when it fades to black. The official New Heights Twitter account acknowledges that there has been a glitch and that they're working on fixing it, and the fact that it was officially called out as a glitch. And not only that, once the glitch was fixed, the file was 2 hours and 3 minutes long. And I can guarantee you that they knew that this podcast was going to be big and influential and important. And when you edit something, you had to edit that a lot. The people that were producing this know the fact that the file should be over 2 hours. The first thing I do when I upload a file to YouTube is make sure that the timestamp is exactly the same as the timestamp that's in my editor, so I know that I don't have any added or removed material. But also, as a YouTube partner, I know that especially if you're a high up YouTuber, you have access to make edits after the fact to the files that you upload. That's absolutely technologically possible to do this on purpose and not even that hard. And the full file was uploaded, I believe, to Spotify and to the Wondery, and Wondery isn't an app. I don't honestly know what Wondery is, so don't quote me. I don't usually listen to podcasts. Those people indicated that there was no glitch. One of the things that is discussed in the podcast after the glitch is actually how Jason lies to his kids and then kind of like quickly has these lies disproven, because he wants them to have more critical thinking skills. He wants them to not believe everything that they read on the internet. And I think that one of the big reasons that this was in there, and one of the big reasons that this was highlighted by being after the glitch, is the fact that Taylor is doing the same stuff with us now. She is teaching us this media literacy because she knows those skills are going to be increasingly important going forward. And I also think it's important that they started off by acknowledging that they had lied about this podcast. It opens the room for other lies. Another thing that suggests that lies are in place, there's a Pinocchio who's kind of covering his head as though he doesn't want to hear the lies that are happening. And then there's also one of the books behind, which I said one of the points is to get people to look at these books, is a book that's called Something Off. And I think it's particularly important that you don't see those things when it's both Taylor and Travis in the frame, so you only see that when it's just a wide shot of Travis. Taylor also made a lot of things that I call like low-hanging fruit lies that are designed to be very easily digested, because I tell people all the time that Taylor lies, and Taylor tells us that she lies a number of times throughout her lyrics and her art and things like that. And that is the thing that I say about Taylor that upsets people the most, because they just cannot process her being anything other than the God's honest truth. And I think she needs people to understand that so she can actually be allowed to be a human being again. But one of the things that she lies about is the 1989 movie Say Anything. She talks about the John Hughes movie where the guy holds the boombox over his head at the end, but that is not a John Hughes movie. And as I've established previously on this channel, Taylor is too much of a cinephile to have made that mistake. This is a Cameron Crowe film. I also find it very hard to believe that she didn't know what a first down was, because just the number of times that she's referenced football football, and also the fact that she was in that movie Valentine's Day that had like a bunch of football scenes. I'm sure she at least knows what a first down is. And I very much think that the lies are going to get more and more obvious. Another very obvious lie was this thing about how she does an Easter egg about her private life, and one of the biggest examples of that is that I Love TS shirt that Tom Hiddleston wore that was in one of the Reputation music videos. Taylor references her personal life with Easter eggs all the time. These are low-hanging fruit lies, not gotchas to things. And I very much suspect that because of that, this is going to be more than 12 tracks. I think that was the lowest hanging fruit lie of it all. I think once we get more than 12 tracks, people are going to be like, oh crap, she lied about all of these things. I also think that she is continuing the performance. Like I said, she performs across a wide variety of mediums. She's continuing it on social media. One of the very, very many things that Taylor is a performance artist. Many of us have been tracking this in a theme that we call performance Artlor. And realistically, a lot of pop stars, realistically, ever since the big Joe Calderone moment from Lady Gaga, like 15 years ago, people are absolutely incorporating more performance art. These artists are doing such incredible things. Like, Taylor's art encompasses everything that we see of her. Because we don't see her just like randomly around her house or going out for a coffee run or things like that, we have to know that everything that she is doing is being done so that we can see it. She can exist for months completely quietly without being seen, without being photographed. We have no idea what is actually going on in her private life. She could be married with kids secretly and we would be none the wiser because of the percentage of time that we don't see her. When we do have a public moment, she very much makes it seem like she's been out more than she actually has. She'll go out with a group of friends. She'll be packed early in the evening going into one place, and maybe they'll go to a couple of other places throughout the night. Those photos will release the next day. Then over the course of the next week or so, the friends that were out with her will release pictures of that. So then we believe that we have seen her like 3 days, 4 days, 5 days this week, when in reality she was out for 4 hours, and the rest of the week we have no idea what she was doing. One of the biggest theories that was confirmed, and a theory that I've discussed a number of times on this channel, performance Artlor, which I introduced in my Swiftcraft video, and I have a performance Artlor video on its own, is this concept that every time we see Taylor, it is performance art. And I would say performance Artlor, we don't necessarily all agree of when it was started and when it's going to end, but we all kind of vaguely recognize that what we are seeing is a performance, and Taylor is a consummate performer. I think that one of the things that really good artists truly often suffer from is, like, if you make it look too easy, people just assume it's easy for you. Beyonce suffers from this as well because she makes things look effortless, and she is just unendingly talented. There are so many artists that are doing so much incredible work right now, and I would say only a small fraction of it gets appreciated. I do think that once people get a little bit more detached from this idea that the stuff that we read in the media about artists is the God's honest truth, that facilitates you appreciating and understanding the art a lot more. And with regards to Life of a Showgirl, I believe a lot of this stuff, this whole like rollout, is designed to bring more and more attention to all of the media, to all of the stuff that is really just like propaganda that is designed to make you interested in things, that is designed to keep your attention. I think, like I said, more than anybody else, Taylor Swift is aware of the fact that a lot of her audience lacks media literacy. And we are in a time when media is becoming more and more deceptive. There are so many more and more clear deceptions that are coming into play. I think why a lot of us were wrong about the prediction that it was going to be something Eras related next and not TS12 is because TS12 is the lesson, it is the context, it is the revelation that so much stuff was for show, entirely for show. It's so much more than just Taylor. She harkened back to Clara Bow, she harkens back to Marlena Dietrich a lot, she's harkening back to Elizabeth Taylor in this. Elizabeth Taylor especially, a lot of her relationship dynamics were controlled by, you know, trying to get certain headlines across in the press. The reason that Taylor references her and Richard Burton a lot is because they would go to hotel rooms where they knew that the walls were thin, and they knew that either the media or fans had seen them go in, and then they would have these loud arguments so people would hear about it and report on it. And when she was talking about art and the way that she incorporated different references into her art, like the first thing she said was performance art. And a lot of people want to think, oh, performing art, but those are two very different things. I'm not going to get deep into it because, like I said, I've discussed it in other videos, but performance art is so important. There are so many things that happen in the visuals. Taylor is such a good director. She she's so good at planning out a lot of these things. And I believe that once TS12 has opened more people's eyes to all of these things, that then she is going to release a lot of like all 12 eras type content that's either called like Feminine Rage or just called Taylor's version, and that's why she was wearing that red "This is not Taylor's version." I think once she has taught more people more media literacy skills, that then she is going to release that era's content. Then we are going to see all of the stuff that she has made in her entire career with fresh eyes, with a new understanding of all of the pressures of the industry, all of the things that made her life harder, all of the things that she had to push down and suppress, all of the acts that she had to put on, all of the things that she had to set aside in order to be as successful as she was. Like, I don't think people have even the slightest bit of a grasp. And I think a big part of it is like, I think a lot of people get really sad when they realize everything that she's been through. Like, TTBD is an objectively very sad album, and so much of it is about how the industry and the relationship with fans and, you know, prioritizing a public persona over the private persona and prioritizing career over love, how all of these things had devastating consequences to her. But again, not just her. Like, I read a lot of different autobiographies, I listen to a lot of current pop music. It seems like so many of the actors, actresses, musicians, anybody who was in the eye of fame when I was growing up and when I was younger, they are now talking about all of the sacrifices that they had to make and all of the things that went wrong. Alongside performance art, Taylor also mentioned things like musical theater, Broadway, ballet, opera, and how all of these things were important to her as a kid. One of my big theories is that all of the media that she has consumed that has had a transformative impact on her life, or that has been in her life while she was going through a particularly bad time or a particularly good time, that these things are kind of swirled into her work. Very often, if she uses the same color, if she uses the same words, or if she uses the same something else as another artist has done, very many people are quick to come out of the woodwork and accuse her of copying off of people, but I very much believe it is homage, and the people know that and feel respect by that. And I also do think a big part of this is also about trying to bring families back together. So often dads and daughters do not necessarily have things to agree on. One of the other things that she used this visibility that she had on her on this podcast was to talk about her father and how he got diagnosed with his heart issues, and how, you know, he was very lucky to have a very specific type of test done on him that is not always standard to have done. She had the ear of so many of these older men, and without a doubt, she saved somebody's life, either because there was an older man who was listening and who was like, maybe I should have this test done, or because there was a younger person listening and they're like, wait, you know, maybe I should push my dad to have this test done. Because there are so many Easter eggs in this, I am obviously probably never going to be able to document them myself. One of the things I am going to be doing is streaming more to this channel. It's very hard for me to plan based on my body and having two sick birds. So what I would recommend, if you want to see me stream, if you want to see me react to New Heights a little bit at a time, make sure you hit subscribe, make sure you click the notifications so you can be alerted. I am going to try and keep the recordings of those lives available so that people that can't make it can still get exposed to the content. Because like we're going to discuss, I think that this is something that is very important for people to see and process. I think one of the best things that Travis and Jason did were supporting a lot of the skills that people may not attribute to a person like Taylor. Taylor, I can tell, is a very good leader just by how she runs her operation, and having people like Travis, having people like Jason, associating her with Andy Reid, that's really going to do a tremendous amount for getting people to respect her more. And I think a big part of that is going to be getting people to respect the message that she's trying to make with this album. I do not think this is going to be a happy, euphoric, I'm in love, glitter pen album. I think she's trying to set up people to trick them. She looks like she's drowning on the cover, and the first song is about Ophelia, a person who drowned. Because like I said, she used the most important time for the thing that was of most importance to her, and that was about artists' rights. This is another thing that supports artists. The more aware we are to the fact that there's all of this PR and machinations and people being pushed to put on an act, to have a persona, to balance two different lives, which is often very difficult, it makes it easier for artists to opt out of those things because they're not going to work as well. Their marketing tricks are going to need to evolve. I think there was so much time spent comparing athleticism to being a performer, and one of the big things that that does is it makes these dads, brads, and chads respect the performers in their lives more. Like, so many people are into theater and so many people are into singing, and a lot of times that's not taken seriously. But as is a huge theory on my channel, all of these things are so important. Art is so critically important to how we are as humans. humans, the way we learn, the way we process things, the way we carry on culture. There's no coincidence that when politics get more conservative, music and arts and things like that very often get more progressive. Taylor references the New Romantics because she right now is trying to do things that are very similar to how they operated back then. I think one of the best things that she talked about is how people should prioritize their time on the internet. And specifically this message that like the things that you spend time on, that is your day, that is your week, that is your life. If you are spending time consuming content that you hate because that's what algorithms push because it gets people engaged more, it's just making your life full of hate. That's one of the reasons why I nowadays really try to make most of my content either neutral or appreciative of artists and things of that nature, because just hating on things all the night. I used to be on a podcast that involved a lot of watching bad movies and reacting to them. It really... It made my life miserable. It made my friendships that I was a part of in that group miserable because all of that kind of rubbed off. I have so much more to say about this podcast, but I'm really trying to focus on making videos that I will actually edit and get out. That's why this has been a lot less edited than a lot of my videos. I am going to have so much to say about Taylor Swift in the next little bit. We're going to be doing a little bit less editing, at least until I can afford an editor for me, just because it is so much work to edit. It is so much work to get all of the pictures, and realistically, I really encourage people to go, to find the theories, to find the information, to look into where people are discussing things. If you're not sure where to get started, all my links to where all of my haunts are down below. What I will say though, I do believe a big part of this is about unity, about bringing a fan group that can often be divided back together. I often refer to Gaylor and the analysis of Taylor from the perspective of performance art as the world's biggest group project, because it is something that has taught us a number of things. We have learned a number of lessons from so much media that Taylor has recommended. We've gained confidence, we've gained friendship. When I think about all of the times that Taylor was sitting there, "You're on your own, kid," one of the big reasons is to stress like how important community actually is. And one of the things that has been most valuable about all of this theory crafting to me is all of the amazing, incredible friends, and friends who truly want to work together, friends who truly want to pool their skills, friends that truly want to be nice to each other. The way Taylor uses her fandom, the way she uses PR, the way she uses just so many tactics in her life is fascinating. Like the whole thing, "No, I'm not, but you should see your faces." She knew that a lot of people were going to record their reaction. She knew that that was going to get a lot of clicks. It was going to get a lot of people paying attention to the album, to the song, things of that nature. She knows how to get eyes on so many small artists that have great messages. She knows how to get eyes on so many older performers that had great messages, or their life stories were cautionary, or she's trying to get us to look into the history of specific events so we can't be fooled the same way again. And like I said, we're going to be discussing this for decades, if not centuries to come. In years to come, when people that were not alive for this are looking to know more about it, they are going to want to look at the contemporary opinions of this. Never before has Taylor encouraged more and more of her fans to start either putting out content about their own analysis, which I think analysis is actually an art form of itself, because you have to understand so much artistry, right? And you have to inject so much of yourself into things that you are interpreting. And you really can't analyze or interpret something without including things that are hallmarks of your perception of the world and how you are. You can't get that feedback out to people without packaging it up in a way that is aesthetic or at least interesting. I think one of the reasons that she stressed that she doesn't necessarily care what fans say about her, because they can talk about her without it being her business. I think fans need to look at it more. I think they need to talk about it more. I think they need to preserve her legacy. I think they need to preserve the contemporary interpretations. And we very frequently believe that there is one biblical truth and this is the only thing that a song can be about. That is not how artistic interpretation works, and if you believe that, you are only hurting her art. Hi, I have been AerinMoriarty. I discuss a lot of pop culture, pop music, media literacy, especially in terms of Taylor Swift. I particularly analyze her work from the perspective that a lot of it is about her herself. If that interests you, if you like that, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me out a ton as a small creator, and you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.